On this week's episode of Keeping It Real, Cam Marston tells us they're not butterflies, they're jet fighters. You got this.
Years ago, I walked onto a stage in Vancouver, British Columbia for my $1 Million Roundtable keynote speech rehearsal. Even with only a small handful of people in the room, the size of the stage and the number of the chairs sent a chill down my back. The stage was probably 8 or 10 feet above the floor, and there were 7,000 chairs lined up for attendees the next day. They were coming from around the world, and this would be my largest audience ever by a long shot. The day of the event, the room was a roar. When the audience chatted between speakers, it was hard to hear. When they laughed together, it was deafening. Applause was like thunder, and I paced backstage, my mouth bone dry, my hands soaking wet. And when the announcer said my name and I stepped out, I remember not being able to see the last row of people. There were too many, and the chairs disappeared into the dark. 7,000 people, 14,000 eyeballs were watching. They quieted after applause and waited for me to start. I opened my mouth, hoping for something reasonably intelligent. I honestly don't remember what happened. I followed my notes, I used my slides, I hit my jokes, the clock flashed 0, I finished up, and I returned backstage. That moment when I stepped onto the stage, my stomach was in knots, but it was time to perform. It was go time. Just before I stepped out, the meeting planner whispered, "Don't be nervous." No chance. In that environment, there was no way to not be nervous. Watching the basketball players during March Madness taking foul shots with the game on the line, I'm guessing they feel much the same. And someone is telling them to relax, that it's the same foul shot they take in practice. It most definitely is not. It's something else altogether. The message I needed to hear that day before my speech, and that I'm guessing these basketball players would want, is something like this. Feel those nerves? Those nerves are good. What you're feeling is your training, your practice, your hours, your days, your months, your years of preparation, aching to get out and perform in this very moment, this very important moment. What you're feeling is not what people have been telling you. They're not butterflies in your stomach. They're jet fighters, and they're flying in tight formations, weapons armed. Each day you and I face something uncomfortable. It may not be 7,000 people waiting for a speech or a foul shot to send your team to the next game. But we likely confront something uncomfortable every day. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small. Regardless, don't shrink from it. Whatever your age, your years of living have made you ready. You got this. We got this. It's go time. I'm Cam Marston, just trying to keep it real.
To hear more commentaries, search for Keeping It Real with Cam Marston on your favorite podcast app, or follow Cam Marston on social media.